Hope you folks are doing good. The book that I'm going to talk about today is called Subscribed. And I picked this up because I wanted to learn more about the SaaS model. And that's exactly what it does, right? It talks about how the subscription model would be your company's future and what to do about it. So think of Netflix, Spotify, or Salesforce. What do you think is the common thread across these companies? So the author says that they're all succeeding because they recognize that we now live in this digital world, and in this new world, customers are different, right? And they want a new way to engage with business. And over the last decade, the world, he says, has been shifting from products to services. So subscription companies apparently have been growing 9 times faster than S&P 500. And the business model is designed to keep the customer consistently engaged in this long-term relationship, right? Rather than individual products. So think Netflix, Amazon Prime, Box, Spotify, Salesforce, Zendesk, right? So all of these companies are kind of following this model. So the book can be thought of as 2 parts. The first one, which talks about the amazing facts around subscription companies, economy, and how that is going to be the future of software delivery. And the second one around steps one could take as an organization to get there. So even though it has like a huge amount of content, I'm going to distill this to 5 questions that we can help answer across this video. So the first one, what do customers today want in this digital economy, right? And he talks about how customers want outcomes and not ownership. And how at the heart of this subscription economy is this idea that customers are happier subscribing to the outcomes that they want and when they want it, rather than purchasing a product with this burden of ownership. So he famously says ownership is dead. Yeah. So the second one, so is this only for a specific set of companies, or can any company move into this, right? Move from a product to a relationship mindset? Most of them can, right? So he talks about how the focus is on finding values and delivering ongoing value, right, to the customers. And he gives these multiple examples, like for example, Caterpillar, right? Can you even think of how Caterpillar could move from product to services? So he talks about how Caterpillar uses subscriptions to help solve problems, and that's the crux of it, right? So it's not about how many tractors you can rent, but how much dirt can you help move, right? So that's how you change the value proposition. He also gives this example of how Fender, they evolved from selling guitars one at a time to creating these lifelong musicians by teaching beginners how to play and keeping them inspired for life. And finally, he talks about how today consumers prefer the advantages of access over the hassles of maintenance, right? And this is seen across from transportation with, like, say, Uber, to clothing, like these subscription boxes like Stitch Fix, to razor blades and makeup like Dollar Shave Club or Birchbox, right? So definitely something which is a humongous shift from how it was in the past. So the third question, right? How does this new model actually impact the revenues? So subscription models at the heart of it create this predictable revenue, recurring revenue stream, right? So for this, he talks about how you need to understand this new model called swallowing the fish. So what does that mean? So it's a transition period in moving from a traditional to a SaaS model. And this is when, say, the revenue curve will temporarily dip below the operating expense, and then it will climb back again, right? So you have this dipping and the cost increasing, and then it finally meets again. And this is the fish, right, which happens when a traditional company shifts its revenue mix from this asset purchase model to a subscription model. And therefore, the company may experience, he says, a string of quarters where the top line revenue shrinks without the large upfront payment, which is the norm, right? And he gives this example of how Wall Street has started reacting to it, right? Positively, in a sense. So like for example, when Salesforce reports its annual revenue figures and it notes that the deferred revenue figures are 60% of that number, what does it mean? It means that they get to start next year with more than half of its revenue target, which is already in the bank, right? And therefore the Wall Street, responds to it accordingly versus another company which doesn't have that second figure. All right. Okay, so the fourth question, right? So how have traditional companies reinvented themselves to be SaaS first? There are multiple case studies and examples he gives for this. The one which I'm going to pick is the Adobe case study, which is the textbook case study for this, right? So Adobe transitioned from selling enterprise software licenses to offering cloud-based solutions for a flat monthly fee. And it quadrupled its valuation over time. So in the perpetual model, he talks about how they identified a number of red flags. For example, Adobe was driving revenue growth by increasing the selling price, right? And not necessarily getting new customers. And then the other challenge was the product updates were delivered only once in like 18 months or 24 months, and it wasn't in par with the customer's requirements and expectations. So when they switched over to the SaaS suite, they apparently gave customers some time and giving themselves like a year of parallel sales model. And then they followed this with sustained evangelizing of this new model, talking to customers face to face, explaining the reasons, explaining the benefits, so on and so forth. And in 3 years, he talks about how Adobe Creative Cloud Suite went from no subscription revenue to 100% subscription model. And it inspired the whole gamut of companies to follow the model, right? Like Microsoft and Intuit and Autodesk and PTC. And he also talks about how 70% of its revenue is now recurring, maybe more right now. But that's massive, right? Very, very powerful. So fifth one, I wanted to give a real life example of how this impacts us, right? So why do SaaS companies, why does a SaaS model rather allow companies not to cater to the lowest common denominator? And the reason we have such quality media content in movies and music and shows, and how do you think this ties back to the new business model which we have? Yeah. Let's take the example of Netflix. So Netflix started streaming movies from 2007, and it went from 0 to 100 million streaming subscribers in around like 10 years. So he talks about how right now it's this golden age of media, right? There's so much more music and movies and shows to discover. It's a different fact that it can be addictive. I'm not getting into that, but freed from this blockbuster mindset, right? Where there's tons of money poured into this, creating this blockbuster and then waiting with your fingers crossed, hoping that it becomes a hit. You've kind of moved away from it, right? So now these new streaming services, they do not have to worry about streaming and chasing this lowest common denominator budget, and therefore they can afford to take on more edgier projects that way, right? So Netflix apparently spends up to $8 billion US per year on original content. This book was written 2 years ago, so I'm sure they spend more right now. So how does Netflix justify spending so much on a TV show or a movie that might not sell? Why? Because regardless of whether the show is successful or not, investing in sharp new content allows Netflix to A, attract new subscribers, right? And B, extend the lifetime of current subscribers. Remember the relationship-based model. So together, they are increasing the overall value of the portfolio, which is what he calls the portfolio effect. Okay, and so that's a 5 questions, but there's this other one key point which he made, right, which I found very, very startling, in fact. So he talks about, can academics be subscribed? Think about it, right? And the answer is yes, it can. So anyways, I'm going to conclude it with this. There was a study which McKinsey says that SaaS has become the new default software delivery model, and the next normal, which is established by COVID, will accelerate the footprint of SaaS given the growth of remote working and the rapid deployment of solutions and the lower upfront costs. So I thoroughly enjoyed this book. If you have other book recommendations around this topic, please let me know, and I hope you like this review. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.